everyone. Thank you for joining us on episode 32 of You're Welcome, the podcast where two dudes who don't know squat become experts on everything. I'm Drew.
And I'm Zach.
Welcome to the show. This week, we'll be talking about something very controversial in the world of science with a special guest expert this week. But first, we'll just start off with a little introduction. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Drew and Mr. Zach. My name is Courtney T. Ansley. I'm a flat earther, and I am here to give my personal opinion and knowledge on the subject.
All right.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any favorite movie or food?
Favorite movie is Troy. Should be something flat. Yeah, it should be something flat.
Is your favorite food pizza or
favorite food is Italian from Italy, who created pizza, so definitely flat.
Okay.
I'm just really here to be excited to talk about this subject. You know, a lot of people, we get ridiculed a lot for it, especially when I tell people I'm a flat earther. You know, definitely a bunch of ridicule with it. So, yeah, that's Courtney.
Yeah, and I guess to just give sort of a little bit of a reason as to why Courtney's here. Back in the day, not too long ago, when I worked at Geek Squad, Courtney helped us out during the holiday season, and like day one of him riding in my van. So, Courtney, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a flat earther. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. It's kind of like the lead off, like, what are you titled? Flat Earther would be my word title, Flat Earther.
Okay, so I guess, we're going to dedicate this first half of the show to sort of the history of the debate of flat or round. And so, yeah, I guess I'll go first with the first question. So, Aristotle wrote a book called On the Heavens in 350 BC, in which he outlined evidence that he discovered, which led him to believe that the Earth is a sphere. So let's bring up some of these and see if Courtney can argue against them. His first thing that he noticed. During a lunar eclipse, which is when the Earth is between the sun and the moon, the outline of Earth's shadow can be seen on the moon. As the moon rotates around the Earth during the eclipse, the shape of the shadow remains the same constant round shape. Would this not mean that the Earth is a sphere?
Yes, it would mean the Earth is not a sphere.
Okay, so let's get into that.
Yes. To answer Aristotle's question, and On the Heavens, he wrote this book back in 350 BC. There have yet to been any space exploration, correct?
Yes.
So he's just guessing, he's surmising that from looking at the moon, the reflection he saw had to be the Earth. Why would he suspect that to be the Earth and not another landmass, another planet at that time? It would have to be the Earth. I mean, yet space exploration had yet to be discovered to even reflect what the Earth looks like. The blue marble that we know today was actually a picture made by Robert Simmons. It's basically photoshopped. It's images put together by a creator back in, I want to say 1958. No, for the Apollo 11 mission in 1972. Well, he made it from those composite sketches. It is not an actual picture. Therefore, Aristotle could basically not know whether that was a reflection of the Earth or not back then. That's just common sense. If you have yet to be out of space to even look down and see the actual shape of the Earth. You're sitting on a flat plane and you're telling me what you see in the moon is spherical. So therefore what you're standing on is spherical because it's a reflection of what you're standing on. Yet at the time, there's no evidence to support his theory that the moon is reflective anyway. That would take years and years later for them to even discover that the moon it emits its own light, which is reflective. It's transparent in a sense. So, yeah, I'm going to disagree with Mr. Aristotle. Great man, great philosopher, but I'm going to disagree with his findings back in 350 BC. And for all the modern day listeners, if you're going to take books as face value and factual, then I'm going to ask that you reevaluate your thinking. Books constantly contradict each other. From 350 BC to modern science today would contradict Aristotle's findings on the heavens back in 350 BC. It wouldn't even have to be a dispute from a flat earther. It could be a non-flat earther disputing facts from that book, probably.
Okay. Yeah. I would say, forget the idea that Aristotle knows anything other than his. So, just take his face value. What did he note? What did he see on the moon? And then use the information we have today. So he saw a shadow. Maybe, who knows what he thought what it was.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He saw a shadow on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And then take that information and use what we have in modern day and say, well, obviously that's the shadow of the earth. Right?
I mean, we can't see the shadow of the earth from the moon today, can we?
Specifically during a lunar eclipse, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the theory that the earth is a sphere.
During the lunar eclipse, all we see is the moon is apparently blocked out, correct? Or during the lunar, what's this, lunar or the solar?
Solar is when the moon is blocking the sun.
Out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other way around.
Lunar is when the earth is apparently blocking
the sun from the moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Which is why the moon disappears.
I would
right?
think a lunar eclipse would be more accurate if you were looking at it from the moon.
Well, yeah, because then
it would
see
be more
earth.
accurate. It would be a more accurate depiction if you were seeing it from the moon. Then you could clearly say, okay, well, the earth is blocking out the sun. That would be more accurate of a depiction of a lunar eclipse, as opposed to, hey, we're on Earth and we're going to assume we're blocking out the sun from the moon at the moment. Like that makes no sense. And the previous eclipse, I think the solar eclipse, was happening during the daytime. Both bodies of the sun and the moon were present at the same time in different spots while the eclipse was taking place. Now, that may be for another day, another discussion, but I would like people to look into that more. Why is the moon and the sun present at the same time during the eclipse, but not, conjoined? It's not where you see it blocking, it's off in the distance. And then the eclipse is happening off in the distance. Now, that was for the last one. I witnessed that myself. And it's just like, it's things of that nature where I say, like, when you see stuff, and then for Aristotle during his time, the knowledge that was available then, him being probably the lead philosopher at the time, his word was taken as gospel. So with him saying, hey, during the lunar eclipse, I can say definitively that the earth is blocking out the moon without ever being in any space exploration, that statement to me would only be more accurate from a Martian or a moon man.
Essentially, like my argument of using modern day knowledge, you're saying is the modern day knowledge is not trustworthy. So you can't combine the
exactly
two.
From both times, from his time and our time.
Okay.
His time, his word is considered gospel, yet there's basically no one there to dispute it. And as we know today, he had no exploration whatsoever. He Aristotle, I don't think
the exploration that I'm basing my information off of,
the exploration
is
at the
potentially
time. At the time that that was a lunar eclipse. It's kind of hard that today we say that they say that was a lunar eclipse. Your followers could look into finding out when a lunar eclipse was first established. Look into the origin of that, because this book dates back to 350 BC, and this is 2021. So it's quite a few years of time in between that for a lunar eclipse to be recorded back then. The measurement of time didn't come into place until what century was that?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. But back then we're accurately saying that, hey, he saw a lunar eclipse back in the day. I disagree with Mr. Aristotle once again, great philosopher, but I'm gonna disagree.
All right, Zach, you take that second one.
Okay. So the second thing that Aristotle noticed was how when standing on different positions on the Earth, the stars in the sky are very different. So, for an example, Aristotle plotted the stars as he saw them as he stood in modern-day Egypt, and then plotted the stars he saw as he stood in Cyprus, which is 621 miles north of Egypt. What he found was that the stars were vastly different. So, in my mind's eye, I can see how the horizon of the spherical Earth would cut off a portion of the sky that I was looking at in Egypt versus in Cyprus. So, if the Earth were flat, would you be able to see the same star no matter what position on the Earth you were at?
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
Now, you may need help to see the star from a location, Our eyes can only perceive so much. So if I'm standing in Australia, it was actually an experiment done between some guys testing the sun, the theory of the sun, us being flat, the sunrise. One was in Australia and one was in Washington, D.C., which is, I don't know exactly how many miles apart, but they were quote unquote recording at the same time and, seeing the sunset. So with their experiment in mind, I'm going to say, yes, it is very feasible to be able to be in two different locations and see the same stars. As we're told, we're able to see the same constellations, no matter where we're at. And those are just larger stars, group clusters of stars. So I would think regardless of where I'm at, I would be able to see the same sky, in a sense. No matter if I'm in Australia, I'm in Canada, I'm in South America, if all the stars are visible at the same time, then yes, I may need a device to help me, bring it into perception, to bring it into clear view. But yes, I definitely think that no matter where we are, no matter how many miles apart we are, that we would all be able to see the same sky at during the same time. And, like, hey, Drew go outside, Courtney goes outside. Have you ever done, for your listeners, try this experiment. Call your friends in another state and ask them to look up. I used to ask my friends when I lived in Virginia, I would call to Louisiana and ask them to look up at the moon and see if they see the same moon that I would see, or what's their perception of the moon at that point? What are the clouds like around that moon? That we know clouds travel, so I wouldn't expect the same clouds be visible. However, the moon positioning would be similar but not exact. In my personal experience, they will be similar. You can see the same moon, but it's not the exact same moon. Like I said, that way, you may need something to help bring it into perception where we can all see the same exact thing at the same exact time.
All right.
So I guess to bounce off that, have you used something to?
I actually wanted to buy a telescope. They are very, 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 very expensive.
They are.
The good ones are very, 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 very expensive. And I tried to get a couple friends of mine, they were flat earthers as well too. Hey, let's chip in. And they never followed through. It never fell through. But yeah, that has definitely been one. I bought a cheap one. Me and my son used it, and I was like, this is not going to prove anything for us. So,
yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more that has to do with our friends in Greece.
Yes, sir.
But this time, forget Aristotle.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk instead about Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes actually conducted an experiment to show hard evidence with the help of mathematics. Now, Courtney, you do believe in mathematics, right?
No.
Oh!
No. Okay.
Math is not real.
Okay, counting is real. Okay. Counting is real. Math is deception. There are different countries who have different methods of mathematics. Therefore, there can never be one accurate, factual depiction of mathematics. Now, counting, we can all count in different languages, and that's basically the basis of mathematics. And with throwing science in there, it really confuses you. Science, mathematics, geometry, and algebra, all of that confuses you. But the basis of mathematics should be counting. Now, that's easy. Everything else is confusion. It is definitely created to divide. Now, in Asia and certain countries, that mathematics is considered much harder than American mathematics, correct?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I've never taken Asian math. However, I've seen it. Like, okay, we're going to take, for instance, today, right? We would all say mathematics is the same, just the teachings are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
They teach the kids a different method in 2021 of mathematics than they taught me back in 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ever changing. So therefore, I'm going to believe if something is ever changing and evolving, it can never be factual, ever. If there's always constant a new variant to it that changes it from what it priorly was, or prior to what, I'm losing my speech, but prior to that what it was, then it can never be factual. I do believe in counting. Mathematics, on the other hand, it's kind of up to the person, whether you choose to believe it, or if I can create a mathematics system of counting if I really got into it, and so can you and your listeners as well. And you can create something that makes sense, but it will not be accepted by all.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that. We have yet to have that conversation personally. However, so
assume I agree in mathematics. Yes, I agree mathematics is real.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's get into Aristophanes' experiment.
Yes.
The way it worked was, and it's a long explanation, so buckle up.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Aristophanes was an ambitious mathematician and librarian, and one of his many big achievements in life was creating an accurate map of the entire world. He knew that in order to do that, he would have to first calculate how large the Earth was first. So, in this experiment, to calculate the size of the Earth, which at the time was widely accepted as being a sphere, he involved a water well in Syene and a stick that he planted in the ground in his home of Alexandria. At Syene, he noted that at exactly noon, the sun was directly overhead, and that made it so where there was absolutely no shadows inside the well. Back in Alexandria, he plunged a stick into the ground at exactly 90 degrees perpendicular to the ground. At exactly noon, he noted that there was still a shadow that the stick cast on the ground. How could that be if the sun was directly overhead? The answer was simple. It wasn't directly overhead. The shadow that the stick cast was an entire 7.2 degrees worth of a shadow. So he put together an equation that would help solve the circumference of the spherical Earth. A big speed bump in this equation was he needed to know the exact distance between Alexandria and Syene. So he hired a person who was known as a bimetist. A bimetist was essentially a professional who measured distances between 2 points based on the amount of steps it took to walk between them. So with this aid, he decided that the distance between the two cities was about 497 miles. So the equation he put together went like this. That 7.2 degrees is a perfect 1/50th of the full 360 degrees. So the 7.2 degrees would be a perfect 1/50th slice of pie out of the Earth. The outer edge of that slice of pie would be equivalent to the distance between Alexandria and Syene. So taking that distance of 497 miles and multiplying it by 50 would give you a rough estimate of the entire circumference of the Earth, 24,854.848 miles. Of course, nowadays we have satellites that can give exact measurements, including the distance between Alexandria and Syene. So Aristophanes was very, very close to the exact circumference of 24,900.829 miles. He was only about 46 miles short. Pretty impressive. Now that I'm out of breath, I just want to get Courtney's input on the whole experiment, and I think it's funny that he laughed during the portion when I talked about satellites.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into that.
Well, once again, another great philosopher. I have yet to hear of this one. That's very impressive, to be honest. If he's only off by 46 miles, that is damn impressive. Very accurate, and it's hard to dispute something of that nature with his findings at the time. However, I just want to say, with him being off only 46 miles short, at the time, there was probably no circumnavigation of the globe, correct, at that time?
I don't think there
That wasn't even in existence, right?
Probably by one singular entity, probably not.
Yeah. So it's pretty hard for me to grasp the concept that one man was able to do this so accurately at the time. So I'm actually stumped on this one. I wish I'd have done some little bit more research on this guy. I should have from back in the day.
Here's what I thought you were gonna say.
Uh-oh.
What did you think I was gonna say?
I thought you were gonna say, well, that's based on just people walking the distance between Syene and Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were gonna say satellites aren't real.
Oh, no. I definitely, satellites aren't real, but yeah, that's why I laughed doing that part of the speech that someone decided to include that. But
then also I was going to say he was 46 miles short, or I thought you were going to say he's 46 miles short of what the government wants you to believe the circumference of the Earth is.
that portion is coming, yeah, it's just no, like for that to be like for him to only be 46 miles short in modern day time, that's hella impressive if that's accurate. That is, and that goes to show that mathematics can be perceived in so many different ways, and it's weird that he was another weird note I took that it was based off footsteps. And we know footsteps aren't an accurate depiction of measurement.
It's definitely rough.
Rough, very rough measurement. And you almost do better using hands than you would using your feet, So
they should have hand walked.
Yeah, which would have took hella long time. It would have been very creative. Now that would have been another creative milestone for it. But yeah, even between those two cities, that's, like I said, that's amazing. I'm actually stumped at that he's only 46 miles short of that prediction. And I mean, that's great for measuring mathematics. That is great for a measurement of, I guess, like science, using it for that. But it doesn't prove whether the Earth is spherical or not. Honestly, it doesn't prove. That's just saying, hey, somebody was hella good at guessing. They were good. They made a hell of a guess, hella estimate. That's what that states. Now, circumnavigating the globe. Okay, we know that over 500 years ago, it was, all of a sudden decided that it was a globe, right? Are we in agreement on that?
So
or do we think it?
Was it
I don't think.
over
I mean, it became.
It's
over like 500 years ago. I want to say it's roughly 500 plus years ago, where they decided to say, hey, we're just going to all go to this globe model. We're going to push the globe agenda, in a sense, the spherical agenda. Prior to that, everyone knew that the Earth was flat, correct?
No.
Mostly, everyone accepted.
I think mostly
it was accepted. The general, back then, it was round globe. It was round earthers. Now it's flat earthers, but back then it was round earthers. It was people like, we're going to push this globe agenda and see how far we can take it, But generally, like the modern day people may view my peers, back in it over 500 years ago, it was flat. So for him to do this, way, it's almost like a guy looking for attention. He's just begging for attention. He's like, what? I'm going to come up with this theory. And there's one thing about theories that theories and law are two different things. I want your listeners to understand that very well. Theory is guessing. Theory is exactly what it says. It's a theory. You come up with something and you get enough people to believe in your thing and it becomes a theory. It's not law is factual. Law is actual. It's like me saying, hey, it's cold today and it's 10 degrees outside. That's cold. That's damn near law. That's factual. Whereas me going outside and it's 10 degrees and I'm saying, well, I'm creating a theory that, hey, it's breezy. No, it's actually cold outside. That would be a theory. That is just my theory. It doesn't make it factual. Yet if I get enough people to agree with me and say that 10 degrees is breezy, then you have a conflict of interest between breezy and cold. It's just a theory. It doesn't make it law. And him having a theory way back in the time when there was probably no one to contest it, it became probably widely accepted, and most people ran with it. And for that time, of maybe for a period or a slight era, he was a round earther in a flat earth world, where back, then it was vastly accepted that the earth was flat. And which is very weird to me that everybody would go against their common God-given ability to rationalize and think for yourself. It's completely odd to me that people would just abandon that and just follow indoctrination.
So, Courtney, I want to know. So we know a little bit about the arguments, for flat Earth. I want to know, how did you come to believe in this in the theory? Like, what was there a driving force behind it, or have you always believed in it?
Honestly, the driving force behind it became knowledge. It actually started, I was searching more into my lineage. And, when you start down a rabbit hole, things open up. I was 28 at the time. I'm now 35, be 36 this year. So it's been a journey. I was 28 and I just started reading and researching. And a flat earther, you get the ridicule, but at the same time, it's a sense of knowing that you're open-minded. It's a sense of knowing that you're free. It's almost like a freeing sense. You're free from the constraints of just modern day thinking and indoctrination. And when you think about it, when people actually think about it, which is very weird for me that they don't think for themselves more. Us as independents, we're all individuals. We're all unique. We don't rely more on our own thinking. We rely more on what's acceptable thinking and what's acceptable ways of life, habits. And what got me to believe in flat Earth was basic just, hey, man, you know what? My eyes was open to a theory, and then I started using my hey, well, you know what? This is correct. So let me see what the other side has to say about this. And come to find out, indoctrination was a tool used, it's created, and it's effective, very effective, and it's used today still, to get you to believe, to get you to uncritically believe whatever somebody wants you to believe. What we would call a modern day cult. The government used indoctrinations in schools and in prisons and in workforces as well. So we shun our nose up at, other negative aspects of life, but, accept others as gospel and truth. And with indoctrination with flat Earth, one of the biggest questions for me, which got me to flat Earth, was, do I believe what I've been told? And when you ask yourself that question, and then you can honestly, equivocally say, yes, I believe what I've been told, then you have a basis, you have a good, strong basis for your faith and what you believe. So if there's any skepticism anywhere in there, then, then it's kind of, you walking on water, at some point you may sink. So with that, it's like, well, you know what? I went against this, and I'm wholeheartedly against this. I am a flat earther. No one can tell me otherwise. No one can tell me now otherwise. And even though neither side is one, we will never know, because no one has ever been to space. However, the other side claims to go to space quite often. But yeah, that's what got me into the theory of flat earth. It's just doing history on myself, me as a man at the time, a 28-year-old man at the time, and knowing that I already had questions, that it was my belief in God was, it has to be more to life than just this. This cannot be all that life is this monotonous, continuous, everyday cycle. Either you're this or you're that. Either you have to deal with this or you have to deal with that. Me questioning that, like, God, my creator, made all these beautiful things to be admired. And here I am stuck in this rut thinking that, okay, that my world is, and my views are all that it is. And so once I got out of that, and then I opened my mind and I started researching and finding things. But my lineage was the first thing that opened the door. And then once I fell down that rabbit hole, I just started seeing left, I started seeing right, I started seeing left, I started seeing right. And what's a weird thing to me is, Globers, you will dispute some things, they will dispute some things and not others. It's very hypocritical. I am a hypocrite, I am, but I acknowledge that I'm a hypocrite. I don't pretend to be otherwise. I acknowledge that, yes, I can speak the right thing, and yes, I know what's right, but I understand it's a hard, thin line to always do and follow those, that's not self-inflicted, but to follow those righteously, those self-righteous ways. Everybody slips, everybody's human. And so with me being human, I understand that I can be a hypocrite at any given moment. But yes, that's...
So there are parts of that speech that I completely and utterly agree with, that there are definitely, people in the world who they're just so gullible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe the earth is a globe, but there are some things in the world that I'm like, there's no way that X, Y, and Z is true, simply because of the source that it's coming from sometimes.
Yes.
I know that some sources, and I'm not going to name specifics because it'll give away parts of my political beliefs that I don't personally want to be public. But there are sources out there that anytime I hear something from that source, I'm like, there's no way that's true just because it's coming from them. So I like that. Yes, I agree with you there. And it's a great transition into this next question.
Yes, sir.
Common thing I see among flat Earth theorists is a distrust in NASA, SpaceX, and other astronomical programs.
Yes.
Which we've off and on been talking about space travel. Do you think that there is a world government that is intentionally hiding the Earth being flat? And why are they hiding it being flat?
Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Okay. Why? You have to think about it. If you found out today, this is, we're living in modern times, and we can only answer for today. If you found out today that one of the biggest secrets was a lie, what do you think that would do to the masses? I mean, like, just in general, it would change the complete perception of government. It would basically be the crumble of Rome. In a sense, there's no way in hell that they would allow that to be exposed. You gotta, like, they think this is a $1 billion truth. NASA has over a $2 billion budget a year to falsify pictures. Like, this is the weirdest to me ever. I'm sorry, but this is weirdest to me ever, is that they're allowed a budget of $2 billion. You have a high orbit space station. It's not even this is the weirdest. I want people to understand this. The space station is not in space. It is just in high altitude. It is called a high altitude space station. High altitude simply means high above the earth, the surface of the earth. That's it. It is projected. It stays in orbit around 300 miles above the earth's surface. That's it. It is not off in space. The moon, quote unquote, is projected to be, I want to say, 248,000 miles away. The sun is projected to be 90-ish million light miles away. I think it's 98 or 93 million light miles away. First of all, how did they get the measurement of the light year? That's number one. That's number one. When in order to measure that, you have to find the source of that, which would have to be from the sun. So that's just using their own science against them. I'm a firm believer in, I'm non-confrontational, but I will use what you say against you. You have to prove it. It's not just, hey, take it as face value and this is factual. It's not law. So NASA, SpaceX, and all other countries have to keep this up. Why? We all know that there is one united government. It's called the UN. It's called the United Nations. Now, it doesn't have all the countries in or that are considered countries, but it has vast majority. I want to say over 80% of the world's countries are in the UN, and they're all in agreement. So their same argument will be mine. NASA, this is weird to me. NASA is a body, it is a separate entity, but it is a body of the government, no different than the military. It gets government funding of $2 billion. Not only do it get government funded, it also gets privately funded. We all know privately funded organizations have their own agenda. We all know governments have their own agenda, which are separate from the people. The government was simply created as an illusion, as a tactic, because in order to keep people in line, you need them all to follow one thing. And it's not all people, because you have different parties you have Republicans, you have Democrats, you have liberal. I'm a liberal. I believe in the people, period. I believe there's no separation. Color, there's no separation. Race, there's no separation. Gender, no separation. We are all brothers and sisters in my beliefs. And so with that being said, NASA was created. It is a branch of the government. And it was created in 1958. No, not 19. Was it 1958? I want to make sure I'm accurate. I want to say it was created in 1958. And it was created by through a Navy branch. And this is one thing, people from 1961 to 1981, there were 29 space missions. Space. And see, this is where they get you at too. These people need to think wording means a lot. The words you use mean a lot. Space does not mean outer space, as people believe it to be. When Star Trek says space, the final frontier, that was a show. They never once stated outer space. Never once stated they were in outer space. Never once. It was space, the final frontier. It's the same way with NASA. They send wording, they never lied to you. Now, for one thing, they never lied to you. You just have to read between the lines, that is very crucial. Understanding is very crucial. Now, you have to understand who you're dealing with, and you have to understand what their purpose is. NASA's, and this is a question for your viewer, NASA, a $2 billion, you want to say industry, a year, $2 billion industry. Why you can't turn their high orbit space station the opposite way? They give you pictures of Earth, high orbit pictures of Earth all day long from different countries, all day long. All day long. There's projected to be over 15,000 satellites in space orbiting the Earth. Yet, you see not one in the picture. You see not one in the picture of these high altitude photos that NASA creates. Not one. I've searched a lot. I've searched a lot of outer space pictures, and this is to your followers and your viewers. If they could find one, I would truly, you could change my perspective on it, my perception on flat Earth, if you can give me one authentic picture of outer space. One. Just turn that camera the other way and take a picture the other way. You know how we do a selfie? Why doesn't the high orbit space station do a selfie? Why doesn't it just, hey, you know what? We're going to take a selfie and show everybody that we're really, in outer space. But it doesn't. They don't do that. So NASA and the government definitely the government. I mean, NASA is just a part of the government. It's just a figurehead for the government. So that when shit hits the fan, they definitely will blame NASA. This is so weird to me that within 2020, they started saying, oh, we got UFOs. Hold up, whoa, shouldn't that have come from NASA? If anybody if that statement should have came from NASA, not the government and the news, that should have came from NASA, correct? I mean, they explore space, and we're projected to believe that UFOs come from space. So if anybody should have been an expert on that subject, it should have came from NASA. However, it didn't. It came from the government and the Pentagon at that, which is a war machine, a propaganda wheel. It spins out what it needs. It spins out its agenda for what it wants you to believe. And it got the masses to believe in it. Hey, this same organization that disputed 100% proof that there is no existence of UFOs, now saying, hey, you know what? Well, we got a couple. We got a couple. I apologize. We got a couple, like, yeah, so this is the same corporation and agenda that's going to say, you know what? The Earth is round. You guys keep it, it's round. Let's keep it round. Now, this is to your viewers and your listeners. Use your common sense. Like, seriously. It's not even me. Seriously. Like, turn the camera the other way. The moon, the earth, the picture of the blue marble earth was created by Robert Simmons. Google him. He created that image, that iconic image that you see in movies, that fading away from the NASA moon landing, all that extra was created by a computer. What we would call modern day Photoshop and what we would call fake and a hoax, which nobody, over 90% of people would consider that, you know what, if we found out something with Photoshop, well, you know, it's a slim chance that shit didn't happen, right? It would create that skepticism and that doubt, right? So with that being said, if that's put into place, why couldn't you believe that, you know what, there's an alternative to this round earth? In other sense, my firm belief is not flat in the sense that people think a box. They think when they say flat, people think a piece of paper and a flat. A spherical shape can still be flat. A CD is spherical and flat. A cake dish that you cook a cake in, which is my firm belief of what the firmament is, like the actual flat earth model was made in 1858 by, I cannot think of his name offhand. But he actually created the flat earth model used, and this was created back in 1858. And so it's like, you know, these are people who firmly believed in what the flat earth actually was way back then. And it's just the agenda of round earth globe. It's just, hey, let's just push this and make everybody believe this agenda. We're going to outer space so we can sink billions of dollars into this program that NASA does, which apparently is, okay, well, I give them some credit. They are planning a trip in 2024. We don't know the state of the world in 2024, but they are planning. This is only the second planned trip to the moon with men on it. A man-made trip to exploration to the moon. It's called Artemis 3. They can look it up. It's planned to go off in 2024. However, it will not go off in 2024. Something will happen by then. But it's projected to go off in 2024. Well, something will happen which will delay that. And for another thing for your family is NASA. When we get to talking about NASA, I really can attack NASA. NASA are the same people who state no human being can pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. No human being. However, it states that when the Apollo mission happened and they took the trip to the moon, I keep forgetting what year that was, I want to say 60 something maybe. I don't really know the year that was. But the moon, 60-ish, because it was 40-something years. It's going on 40-something years. It's been over 40-something years ago. No, so that's 70 years. 40-something years ago. They could, over 40, 50 years, we're just going to say 50 years. Over 50 years ago, they couldn't pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. However, they made it to the moon, which is on the other side of the Van Allen radiation belt. They're kind of come up with ways now to push man through that. They're trying to create, yet you want to tell me that back when the first exploration Apollo mission happened, they made it all the way through the Van Allen radiation belt with no problems. Another fun fact, Alan Shepard, a naval officer, was the first man in space. This is just going back to reinforce the notion of military in NASA and the agenda. From 1961 to 81, there were 29 space missions involving the Navy. People don't realize, maybe they don't realize that Buzz Neil Armstrong was a Navy aviator. He's also from the branch of military. You know, he's from that branch. It's all in there, you know. So for me, it's almost hard to believe that people would think that the government doesn't have an agenda with NASA and everything else. NASA creates weather. NASA can create artificial clouds. They create fake weather. They can create man-made storm systems. That is part of their agenda. So yes, I think they can create a false picture to, you know, elude the public and make them believe that, hey, and everybody knows that they're looking at a computer-generated picture. Yet we still believe it as, hey, you know, all I'm saying is, and another Another fact for us flat earthers, right? It's another question for you listeners. If the sun rays travel to Earth, right? We all know we see sunlight every day. Why can't you see those same sun rays in space? Every picture of space is complete darkness. However, they try to tell you that light can travel through dark, right? The sun rays get here every day. Light travels through darkness. However, every picture of outer space is completely black. We know light, quote unquote, travels to other planets beyond Earth. So why is it perceived that once every picture of outer space, every single one is pitch fucking black, unless they're doing the CGI pictures of constellations and galaxies bursting and this new galaxy forming out of nowhere, unless they're doing Guardian of the Galaxy stuff where it's just a bunch of, or Thor Ragnarok where he's traveling through the wormhole. And unless they're doing stuff like that, every picture, every authentic picture that they give you of outer space is completely dark. And I want to remind your listeners, there's only one other body that we know on Earth that is as black as space. And that is the depths of the ocean floor. That's it. Where we know for a fact that our sun on this globe can only penetrate so far through the water. And then light just becomes, obsolete. The blackness of space is only compared to the blackness and the darkness of the ocean's floor. That's it. Yet you telling me that the sun is it's weave all around the sun, yet the sunlight stops. For like people might say, well, it's nighttime where we at when they take the picture. Okay, high orbit photos are taken all over planet Earth, not just over the North America, not over South America, not just over Asia and Africa and Australia, Antarctica. They're taken all over, and every last one of them is completely black. So you telling me that on every position on our globe Earth, every position is completely black in space that you cannot see the sun's rays whatsoever. There's not one. They can't take a picture at any given moment to show the sun's rays potentially making it to an eye. It just show one glimpse of light. You ain't got to show me all of it. Just show me, okay, in the far distance, that light is over there. It could be dim. But there's nothing over there. It could be dim, but it's nothing. It's literally nothing. So, boo NASA. You are worse. They are the worst. You're not good at your job. If people use their rational mind, you would not be good. You guys would be fired. You would be Enron. You guys.
Okay, I think we got one more question.
Yes, sir.
Zach, go ahead.
Okay. So this may seem unrelated, but what are your thoughts on the pandemic we're facing right now? I mean, if we can't rely on the scientific laws of physics, as you've explained, how can we trust the hospital and medical science if we get sick?
You can't.
Get hurt.
You can't.
You can't.
Okay. Another thing for your listeners, they know that the practice of medicine is simply that, right? The practice. Nothing in medicine is law. Nothing. In order for something to be law, it has to be accurate, 100% accurate for everyone, not just a certain demographic, not just for a certain percentage. That's why medicine is considered the practice of medicine. One surgery that works for you may be the exact same surgery they try on me, but doesn't work. It is the practice of medicine. You could have a clone of yourself that will come out different. Different. It is the practice of medicine. It is you cannot trust the hospital. Please, but that's another form of that indoctrination. You get sick, run to that hospital. You have a headache, take this medicine. No, I would infer to your listeners to use their own rational, God-given judgment.
I would partially agree with you, and the partial sense comes in when you were talking about something for someone else might not work for another person. I think majority of the time, if I get a headache, Tylenol is going to work. It's going to get rid of that headache. But there's probably that 1% person who Tylenol just doesn't work and they got to use Advil.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing for just about anything that you can think of in the medical world. So, but that being said, does that mean I just don't trust my doctor because I might be that 1% that this treatment he's trying to use doesn't work? No, I have no other option. I don't have a medical degree. I've never had this condition where, you know, my toes are falling off and the doctor's saying that this medicine is going to make them grow back. What else do I do? I mean, there's no one else to listen to.
I'm going to say, for any ailment that works for me, I personally don't like medicine at all. However, I have taken medicine. I've taken vitamins. Be mindful of what you put in your body. I'm definitely one for being mindful of that. Exercise beats all. A strong heart definitely helps. Cardio is one of the best medicines you can have. But the fetal position is very weird, very, very weird. But back in modern times, however, not modern, but way, way back in the day, a lot of times with medicine, it's a passage that I read. I don't know how true it is. I can't take it as law or factual, but it does work for me at times. During headaches and sicknesses and cold, people were instructed to just get under a blanket and ball up in the fetal position as medicine. This is what the medicine men way, 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 way back in the day would advise some of their patients. And I'm a firm believer in getting in the fetal position. I have a toothache. Mind over matter is definitely a real thing. Definitely a real thing. I will have a toothache and I don't want to I don't like oral gel. I don't trust oral gel. If I can't get to an antibiotic because I know it's just an infection that's creating a toothache, I'm going to just ball up in the fetal position. And it eventually will surpass. It will eventually go away, and I will be fine.
I think there is something very comforting about the fetal position.
Yeah.
I don't know if Zach, if you have anything like if you've ever tried that, but you know, maybe it's placebo or I don't know what it is, but like every now and then, you know, like you're puking your guts out and just like for whatever reason, just laying on your side.
Yeah. Balling up.
It does help a little bit.
Yes, it helps a lot for me. But as far as this pandemic, I definitely COVID to me is a agenda. It was part of a plan. I keep telling people when things seem too good to be true or things just seem like, man, you know what? It probably is. Like, in all honesty, it probably is. You know, randomness is not randomness. I want people to understand it. There's nothing new under the sun. Randomness is not randomness. It's time. It was its time to happen. It's not random. It was part of a plan. They knew that this pandemic, hey, you know what? We gonna name this SARS way back in the day. We gonna put it in the lab. We gonna cook it up. We gonna let it, you know, like most people do, they let it sit for a while. They let it marinate. They let SARS marinate to COVID. And they patented before they released it. It was patented before it was released. Now that's weird. You only patent inventions, from my understanding. You only patent inventions in what you find. And so for this pandemic, and it scares a lot of people. I understand that, rightfully so, because it was designed to eradicate. And that's its sole purpose and its sole design was to eradicate. So, yeah, but I personally do not subscribe to any hospital, any medical doctor. The last time I went to a doctor, I found out I was diabetic. That's what happened to me back in 2006. And when I found out I was diabetic, I took the medicine for like 8 months. And I just decided this ain't for me. You know, I felt the medicine made me feel so different prior. You know, I mean, after taking it, it was hard to I didn't feel myself. You know, like if you ever take medicine, for those who do take medicines, for those illnesses that you can understand, they can relate to what I'm probably saying, that you don't feel like your normal self at all. Like I just didn't. My body didn't feel like me. So I got to the point where I decided not to take the medicine anymore. It was expensive. That was part of it. decided not to take
yeah.
the medicine anymore. And I just started researching natural herbs to take for this, for that, for this, for that. I changed my diet for a time and I relapsed. And I definitely got into, I was already athletic, but I definitely ramped it up a bit as far as my cardio. So yeah, that's me personally. But with the pandemic, I never forget I was asked this question when it first hit, probably like back in April or May, when it started hitting hard. I was in Virginia still, and this lady asked me, because I'm not a believer in the mask, and she asked me why I didn't have a mask on, and I told her, hard. It may sound harsh to some people, but I told her that it wasn't created for me. COVID-19 was not created for me specifically, and I was 34 at the time. And I told her it was not created for me. However, it was created for her. She was an elderly. And she was like, why do you say that? I was like, and this is before the mortality rate really came out. And I was telling her, it's not targeted for me because I'm not perceived as an asset right now. You know, the elderly are perceived as an asset. You know, they're an asset and a liability. They're a liability to the government because of Social Security. However, they're an asset because they're easily disposable. It's easy, you know, we're going to say, hey, they run their course. It does sound harsh for a government to think that way, in my belief. But it's going to be like, hey, you know, we can eliminate, if we can eliminate worldwide maybe 10 million people, and out of that 10 million, let's say we target maybe 5 million elderly. I don't really know the numbers on the mortality rate. I'm just guessing. But say we can target 5 million elderly. In America, say out of that worldwide number, we took out 2.5, 2.8 million elderly. You know what boost that would do for the economy and the government? I mean, they no longer have to take care of the elderly and the sick. We saw how it ravaged group homes and nursing homes. We saw how it ravaged the elderly, you know, and that was a benefit to the government. And then on top of that, after they saw how it was affecting the elderly, hey, let's trigger some kids a little bit. And then we saw with the second wave, like late August, September, there were more quote unquote targets of minors and younger generation people. So yeah, for me, it was, at the time when I made the statement to the young lady, that's how I truly felt. It wasn't made for me. COVID-19 wasn't made for me. And I'm living proof that it wasn't. Hey, I felt no different. I was COVID positive, and I felt the same way today that I did every day during my COVID quarantine. Nothing changed. My body didn't change. Nothing changed. I didn't feel any different. No headaches, no fever. I was actually going to work up until then, and, you know, nothing happened. So to the listeners, scientific law is not law. Like, it's still practice in theory, even though it says law right here, and I gave them the definition of law as being factual. The reason medicine science is more perceived because they actually practice it much more. The natural science of actually doing it. They actually do autopsies. They actually have bodies that they can constantly practice on all the time. You know, they constantly have cadavers. Hey, you know what? We want to try this. Or they have willing participants. Hey, we created this. You can't do that with the earth. Like, they cannot change the aspects of the earth. They didn't create it. They can create a human being. We've seen that they try to do cloning, and hell, through sex, you can create a human being, and from birth, you can experiment on that human being, which is what they do. You can experiment on that human being. You can create things, and you can say things that, hey, this is law, because out of 10 million people that we put this on, we got 10 million exact results. That can become a law. However, they can never state law with the earth. Like the theory of relativity, gravity, for instance. Gravity is anything with a greater mass than something else. That's gravity, which is why you use the term, I gravitated towards somebody. It's just saying that their pull or their aura gravitated you toward them. Like gravity is an imaginary force that cannot be seen, felt, nor measured. That shit sounds like magic. that shit is magic. That sounds like magic. So yeah, it's weird to me that the overall theme for people is abandon all rational thinking, abandon everything that makes you unique and individual, and take this indoctrination and become normal. I remember me and Mr. Frazier had the conversation where I told him, no one is weird anymore. Nothing is weird. That should be taken out. Nothing is weird. We're all different and we're all unique. Nothing no one does is weird. Nothing I do, nothing they do should be perceived as weird. You're not. You're individual and you're unique, and it should be rightfully so. Now, me being a flat earther, am I considered weird? Yes. But nobody outside of flat earth, nobody inside of flat earth considers me weird. You know, that community is very loving and accepting of all different types of people. They do have conventions for any of the listeners that want to join and look it up. They do have conventions. With COVID, it's kind of limited, but you could definitely do your research on it. And I tell people all the time with the experiments that they do, if you go into an experiment looking for something, chances are you're going to find it, right? You're going to prove what you're looking for. Because your mindset isn't, your mindset isn't accepting of a possibility that you may be wrong. Like scientists go into an experiment looking to prove what they experiment on, looking to prove their theory. And it's only through the fact that they cannot manipulate the circumstances anymore that it's like, okay, back to the drawing board. A scientist will sit there and be like, well, okay, we'll crank up the charges to this or change XYZ to, maybe it'll fit. And when it just doesn't, then it's like, okay, well, we got to scrap this and figure something else out. And when you have that mindset, you're very dangerous. You're very, very dangerous because you're unwilling to accept where you could be wrong, and only for a select few do they get to that point to where they go back to the drawing board. A lot of times on their drawing board, they just change, components. They just change measurements. They just change something slightly to fit their argument and their theory. And a closed-minded person is very dangerous, in my opinion. Very dangerous.
Okay, well, we could talk all day long, Courtney.
Yes, we could. I apologize.
No, it's interesting stuff. I could listen all day long. I really could.
Thank you.
However, we do have a next show where we won't be talking about the flat Earth.
Yes, but you're going to get hundreds of comments about the flat Earth. There are people going to come and they're going to request.
I don't know what they're going to
information.
Say.
They're going to request like, hey, you know what? I enjoyed Mr. Ansley. You guys should do another segment with Mr. Ansley and further segments, and I'm going to push this agenda as well. Hey, that guy, hey, Zach and Drew, y'all need to keep it going. Keep it going.
Okay, well, on our next show, I will be researching and doing what I can to find out and educate our listeners on bullfighting. And Zach?
Mm-hmm. I will be doing some research and help describe and talk about puppetry, which is fun.
All right, there we go. Well, I want to give one last year welcome, but first, Zach, would you mind telling our listeners how they can get in contact with us?
Absolutely. So you can reach us at our Twitter at YourWelcomePO1. That is YOURE without an apostrophe. Welcome PO1. You want to tweet at us? You can send us DMs if you want to slide in. Give us tag us in a photo you like. I don't know. Tweet at us. Do something. You can also reach us more directly at our email. That is yourwelcomequestions@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook group. If you want to get in the conversation, talk about the episode that you just listened to, or maybe gear up for the next episodes, go there. Go check out the Facebook group. Just chat with friends, make new friends. I don't know. So yeah, that's how you can reach us.
There we go. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And thank you, listeners, for joining us, all you skeptical people. I'm Drew.
And I'm Zach.
And we'll see you next time on
You're welcome.